Okay, so welcome everybody to this session. We are in Davos 2025, and this for me is where it gets really exciting. You know, we talk about global politics, we talk about things happening, we talk about certain things happening on the other side of the Atlantic that are affecting people, but there is a lot happening in the technology sphere, and it is a lot closer than we think. It is not in 10 years, it is not in 5 years, it's not in a year, it is here. And in this panel, I have the pleasure of having a very good friend, Jaxon Klein, the CEO of Keyo. And Keyo is such a company at the forefront of technology, building a human identity organization. And Jaxon, that's a big word. What exactly is that?
Yeah. Hello? There we go. Yeah, thank you for having me, by the way, Tassos. We're really excited to be here. So we're talking about human identity infrastructure, and you're asking the right question. It's a big thing to be working on. So when we talk about what we're doing, we like to think, or we like to talk about it in such a way where we say we are replacing your keys, your credit cards, tickets, and even your passport with a contactless scan of your palm. So in our case, you can imagine walking up to your front door, you wave at the door, and it just unlocks. Or you show up to a medical appointment, and rather than pull out your ID and your insurance card, you just scan your hand. So when you're scanning your hand, what we're actually doing is looking at about 5 million points in the unique vein patterns inside of your palm. It turns out these are unique even between identical twins, and they're unique in a 8.5 billion person population. So we hold a fundamental belief that every human should be able to identify themselves, and they should be able to prove their assets, their educational background, that they should be able to move across borders without worrying that, do I have all the identification I actually need? That is a basic human right.
So if I understand well, what you're telling me is that identical twins won't be able to cheat in exams anymore. I don't think you'll be very popular. I really don't think you'll be very popular. But so what you're telling me effectively is we're looking at replacing our cabinets where we had all our medical exams and passports and birth certificates, and you are creating a digital cabinet, right?
Correct, and your hand is the key for that cabinet.
Okay, and this, sorry, but it lends the question because, you know, in that cabinet I have a lot of things and I don't necessarily like to share everything with everyone. I'd like to stay out of trouble. So how can one know that, you know, I have the key, I just use the key and I take everything? How does that work?
So we are a company and an organization fundamentally based in privacy and security. And one of the core tenets of that is that we live in a world today where we have to overshare identity information all of the time. Europe is a wonderful example of that. You get to a hotel, and the first thing they ask for is your passport. They might make a photocopy of it. That's crazy. You are sharing a huge amount of data with a very, I hate to say it, but kind of a random person behind the counter. And they don't need all of that data. They need to know where you are a citizen, that, you know, maybe your name so they can provide a better guest experience, but they certainly don't need all of that additional information. So what we do is we make it possible to first prove your unique biological identity, effectively your DNA. You are Tasso, period. You should always be able to prove that. But then beyond that, to only share the information you need to share with a business in order to do whatever it is, get whatever service or product they need to give you. So when you scan your hand, you see exactly which data is being requested, and you choose whether or not you want to share that data.
So I presume, and again, when you say data, for me, medical is a very sensitive area because you have a lot of data there. How would you run that with medical data? What would you do?
So medical, we really look at a whole span of experiences. So on one hand, I'm a big fan of hospitality. So making a better hospitality experience, but that's the fun stuff. The not fun stuff goes back to medical. So we actually started with medical. Medical matters because this is about fundamental human safety. I can give you an example. This morning I went for a run. And I don't know if anyone else noticed, but it's a little bit slippery out. And I'm trying to, keep the physique, and that's important. So I'm running down the road. I don't have my wallet or my phone on me, and I'm running next to traffic, and I realize if I slip and get hit by a car, if I get knocked out, and I hate to be graphic, but if I'm bleeding, I could have a deadly problem on my hands because I have allergies to medications. And if an ambulance is unable to determine my blood type or these allergies because I don't have any identifying documents on me, they could accidentally kill me just by nature of not knowing this. So being able to, again, always demonstrate who you are and these core kind of constituents of, in this case, your medical identity is actually not just, convenient, it leads to saving lives ultimately. So we started in medical identity. We have about 32 million patients who actually use the system today.
Wow. And this is existing today?
Correct. We've deployed all over the United States. We are now working throughout Africa, throughout Europe, and throughout Asia.
And I'm curious because you brought one of the devices. Is this something that is working and you can show us how it works?
Absolutely.
Now I'm curious. Now I'm really curious.
Yeah. So the other thing that we've done.
Show me the
Yeah.
I'm curious to see the medical.
So what you see here are a bunch of different apps. We realized that we couldn't build every single use case, that there were hundreds of them. So we ended up building an app store on top of this technology. Your skin, it is completely harmless, but it bounces. It's like what's in the remote for your television. So this is a harmless technology, but that bounces off of or reflects off of the hemoglobin in your blood. And so we can look at those vein patterns inside of your hand and using an infrared camera. And then additionally, we use another camera to look at all of the surface prints.
Entity as well.
So we already do payment processing. We do physical access and security, so you can wave at a door to unlock it. We do employee clock-in, so hourly employees can prove when they got to work and when they got back and be paid fairly. We don't do these things individually. We are not a payments company. We are not a medical identity company. We do it through partnerships.
And one last quick question.
Yeah.
What about competition from China? I know that they're pretty advanced, especially in biometric payments, identity. How are you able to compete with them?
I want to be sensitive in my language. The biometric technology is being used extensively in China, and there are very talented companies building that technology. For better or for worse, there's a lot of distrust of identity systems that are being built in China and then exported throughout the world. So from a competitive standpoint, and kind of how I can speak for our company, we don't really face that competition. The banks and the organizations that we're working with are not seriously considering using Chinese-based biometric identity technology in their own markets.
Let me take one last question from the back, the gentleman.
Very interesting. We certainly are looking for partnerships along that line because embedded finance, embedded wellness, and everything else that we do globally would lead to that. Question is, are you also encrypting all the information that you're internally not able to have internal abuse of that data?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned before, we're fundamentally a security and privacy company. That's the foundational piece of it. So the data, we don't capture or store the raw biometric data. We, like he mentioned, use AI to create a kind of an AI output, let's call it, of that hand scan that cannot be reversed back into the template that it was created from. So it's encrypted at every stage of the process, from the moment it comes out of the camera through transmission through where it's stored. Yeah.
Love to connect afterwards.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Jaxon, exciting. It's happening today, and I think it's important for the audience to realize that things are here. They're here now. Thank you for joining us for this very exciting session. It's great to showcase, and we do a lot of thinking in Monaco and uses and looking at the world. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tassos. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'd like to take 2 minutes now. Thank you, Jim. To speak a little bit about Monaco and the Monaco private label. We are here in Davos today because of a lot of work done by the government of Monaco and especially through the Monaco private label. The Monaco private label is a very distinguished organization of Monaco. It is a department of government right under the Prime Minister, and what it is aiming to do is to look around the world, find leaders, successful business people, and bring together this network of global thought leaders and ambassadors. What is critical about the Monaco private label is that it looks for people that also share a set of values. It is not just enough to be successful, but how it was done, what your values are, what you're looking for is very important. With that in mind, we have the pleasure today of bringing into this family a very distinguished friend, Mr. Marcos Esteve. I would like to ask Chloe from the Monaco private label to please welcome Marcos into our family. It's such a real pleasure to have you. Marcos, for those who don't know, he's obviously a very humble family. His family has been around for more than a century, one of the largest traders in coffee and cocoa in the world. Himself, very good in finance. I love our discussions, and it's great. He's also a great chef. And he's running Banque Heritage, which is basically the arm of the family that goes into investments and looks at that. Very humble, true visionary, great leader. We are honored to have you as a member of the Monaco private label. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, and that's the end of this session. We prepare for the next one. Thank you.